There's so much history here that goes beyond just what Boulder Flats is. It's two people who came together. They had the same work ethic, love and passion. Their souls matched.
They worked hard and they loved working hard and they always had a dream, and it obviously was the same dream.
You know, my dad was truly a born farmer. He started his farming career when he was 16. When he turned 21, he had the opportunity to buy this quarter section, the homestead, $6,000 for this home quarter. Probably took him 20 years to pay it off. It was just a verbal agreement he had with the owner, a system of trust. And a lot of his acquisitions over the years were based on that.
You know, everybody in the community thought my dad was crazy to buy this piece of land that was full of rocks. It was a junk pile and this and that, but he didn't see that. He saw a dream and he saw a story. They together defied all of the odds, stayed true to their family, brought up kids in difficult times, really difficult times. You know, had a house fire when they had two young kids, you know, a 6.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and then 2 years of really bad crop hail and drought, and they made it through. My dad always had little sayings, and he would always say things like, "Can you wiggle your ears through it? What is it gonna take for you to get to that goal?" And they wiggled their ears through it, no matter what.
All of my earliest memories of life are doing little tasks, hanging around Dad, being his little trail buddy. And right from 7 years old, we had responsibilities. Trying to get kids to do what we did growing up, it's just not happening. That work ethic just doesn't exist anymore. The prioritizing of what needed to be done here, it really instilled a good quality in all of us, I think. Then when it was done, it was just that sense of pride that you feel after.
I became Dad's little shadow. He nicknamed me at a very young age as his Bubba Louie. Him and Mom both, I was his little Bubba Louie. And there was nothing that I would not do with them or for them, you know. I can remember days getting off of the school bus when I was in kindergarten and praying that Dad didn't haul that last load of grain, because I wanted to get in that grain truck. So I'd get to the grain elevator and I would get an Orange Crush. I would, honest to goodness, sometimes camp out with the cattle because I couldn't wait for a baby calf to be born. You know, so I'd get off the school bus and either my sister and I or my brother and I would run and we'd be on the round bales and we'd just be sitting and just waiting and waiting until Mom would holler for us, "Come in, kids, it's enough, like you need to come in."
Harvest suppers was our big thing, and as soon as I was, 12 and I wanted to cook, we started making warm suppers for them and running them out to the grain truck driver. Then as you got a driver's license and you started bringing these suppers to the field, and that has been a core memory of ours.
You know, the farm always was in a process of expansion. My dad, he hated bush, he hated fence lines. That's farmable acres. So, we did a considerable amount of land clearing. We live in rock country here, hence the name Boulder Flat Farm. They're boulders. They're not like this, they are at least like this. It was just endless, always finding those rocks and getting them out of the ground. In my parents' life, they cleared about 900 acres of land, and my dad always prided himself on that, right? On making that number bigger with each passing year, right? They truly were the pioneers of their time. They broke the mold with him and my mom. My mom was half of this farm. He always joked that my mom should have been born a man, just because of her work ethic, and she would do anything. She would dig into any piece of equipment if it was broke down. And growing up, like, she always had her own combine. She always had her own swather and, her tractor, and everything was in pairs here.
Mom was always an equal on this farm. Truly, my dad said he would be nowheres without her, and she was an incredible worker, above and beyond And we've got those worth ethics from both of them, but as a woman, she was a true leader.
But Mom and Dad, even though it became a corporation and a business per se, they still kept that family orientation, which is really tough and really hard because a lot of people just want to walk away from it.
So they only ever hired out in the harvest time for a grain truck driver, the odd time an extra combine operator, depending where they were in the machinery they had at the time. They were very proud of it being them and us being the farm family.
Your heart never forgets. That is instilled from my generation to my children's. They were in the barn with them, they were in the tractor with them, they were feeding the cows. Like Dad and Mom would bring these little tiny ice cream pails for them to, fill up with the chop, and they got to go and feed them just like we did when we were kids. From one generation to the next, you can't ever take that away from anybody. There's not a thing in the world that you can buy that can replace something like that. They brought us more than we can ever imagine that we will have forever. And it's deep-rooted values and morals that I think is missing in a lot of families.
They worked hard, they played hard, and they just always wanted to farm. They just couldn't see it ending as long as they were here on Earth. So here we are.
I get it now why Dad couldn't shut it down. He was gonna live forever. It was his existence. His name, George, means farmer. That was him. How do you ever stop a farmer? He paid it forward to us that we were strong enough that we could do it for him. One last thing that we could do for him and for Mom, right? And as hard as it is for us to do this, it's a gift that we could give for him.
Dad asked us kids what we wanted to do, and if it wasn't going to be farmed, we never wanted to sell the land and always wanted to keep it in the family.
Half of our land is being rented to family with the same last name, Reszel, my cousin, Kyle, and another great neighbor here is renting the other half. We couldn't be any happier. We actually had the opportunity to help him finish his harvest this year. Because none of us wanted harvest to end this year. I'm very proud, to say the least, to tell their story.
Dad and Mom will always live on. As long as you're gonna say their name, they're gonna be alive forever. They always say, you're never gone until the last time that your name is spoken. So he built this little rock pile in his last years, like when they had gotten out of pigs and they gotten out of cattle, he had always said that the pasture land, which is to the west of us, he always said one day he wanted that to be farmable land, and he did it. So those rocks went to his big rock pile in the back, and that was kind of gonna be like a monument for him, like for in his own way, right, of all the stuff that him and Mom had done together. So he never got quite to finishing it, but my brother did finish it for him as best as he could. And when it's time this spring, his very original tractor from when they started out here will be moved to that rock pile, as well as the big Boulder Flat Farms rock that is engraved in the very front of the yard. And there'll be a little seating place that you can go and you can visit and you can have coffee with Mom and Dad. And a little part of him will be there and a little part of Mom will be there. And they will always be overlooking what they created together.
You get it? We're going courting.
Okay, let's see a kiss.
Right over here.
Give your wife a kiss.
Here, give me your kiss.